Good evening, section crew, and welcome back to the Second Section podcast. I am your host, Andy Dorsch, and we're off. That's right, Colin King. We are off and running. Sorry for the slow start we had. We were sitting in the hole waiting for the first train of the night to come through, and of course, being in the second section, we're always late. So, anyways, I'd like to introduce to the crew out there tonight. My co-host Mike Ostertag. Tag, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing all right now that we're up running and we have Ralph here in the studio with us. So
Yeah.
yeah, how you been over there? Got your technical issues figured out?
I think so. If not, we'll figure it out later.
Very good,
We'll
very good.
we'll edit it all out no matter
No, we will not. There is no editing here. This is all live, baby, live
I
TV.
I
So
forgot about that.
So I just wanted to introduce our guest this evening. He's been a friend of mine for a little while now, and he's also been I guess, one of the high quality modelers out on the internet today, and he's taught me a lot about weathering my locomotives, rolling stock, and also just general artistry. And I want to welcome Ralph Renzetti, the Mudfather. Welcome to the Second Section podcast.
Great to be here, guys. Great to be here.
Great to
So,
have you, Ralph.
Mike was saying how excited he was to have me here. I said to him tonight in the chat, I'm just as excited as you are. So
and I'm excited to have you on as well. So, Ralph, why don't you I mean, if unless you've been living under a rock for the last 5-6 years in the world of model railroading, why don't you go ahead and introduce give yourself a bit of an introduction, your modeling interests, and some of the things that you do out in YouTube land and on Facebook land and all that good stuff.
okay. I've been doing my weathering basically. That's like I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And since the start of COVID, I guess, when Gordy Robinson started the NMRA X, I've been doing clinics worldwide
Yeah.
via the internet. I did the Australian convention twice,
Yep.
and I did the British convention once, and then of course the NMRA X. I've done, I think, 6 shows there. I'm doing so much weathering for other people that my layout is suffering. I'm not getting a chance to work on it. So now that I'm starting to do some stuff on my layout,
Yeah.
my wife has decided she wants to move.
Oh no.
So
Well,
I've,
you guys have had a good run. I mean, I'm sure you'll miss her.
yeah. That's like that. What was it? The boat going fishing.
Yeah.
Certainly will miss her. Yeah. So I'm right now. I was telling Andy just before we started the show. Behind me, you just barely see it. I have those plastic shoe boxes, which I designate to customers. One box is, or maybe 2, belongs to a customer. I have for one customer in Baltimore. There's 42 locomotives here.
Wow. Holy
And
cow, Ralph.
that's not just weathering. That's repaint, and of course the decals. I say decals. You say decals.
Give me the decals.
Okay, so it's like tomato, right?
Yeah.
So it's repaint, decal, decal, weather, and install sound decoders.
Is these HO scale or N or?
N scale.
Oh boy.
N scale.
This is the second time I'm hearing it, and I just can't believe it. It's just that seems like a monumental task.
It kind of is. I mean, I'm an HO guy.
Yeah, right.
My big balloony fingers are hard to work on the small stuff.
The greasy meat
So,
hands, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the Italian fingers.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about your layout. Are you a freelance modeler or a prototype modeler?
How about a proto-freelance?
Ooh, proto freelance. All right.
Well, more to the freelance.
Okay.
None of the areas that I have on my layout you will recognize, but this is I feel that a freelance modeler has a harder time of building a layout than a prototyper. And the reason I say that is because a freelancer has to make it more convincing than a proto builder. Whether you scratch build or whether you buy kits that are already designed with a specific name on them,
Yeah.
a prototyper gets to do it, puts it on the layout. There it is.
Right.
Here's 9th Avenue, street running or whatever, and it's to scale. And of
Right.
course, selective compression because you can't do it all.
Right.
But a freelancer now has to. I mean, it's like building a cartoon layout, but you have to make it realistic.
Yeah. Right. So do you have like a home road then to go with that freelance?
Actually, two.
Two.
Yeah, Canadian National
Okay.
and Calgary Southern, which you probably never heard of, except from me before.
The Calgary Southern.
Calgary Southern. Calgary Southern. It came about as I guess it was almost 8 years ago now. Canadian Pacific wanted to buy Norfolk Southern. And somebody came up with a logo, which was CS, done the same way NS was done, but instead of a horse head, it was a beaver.
Okay.
And I can show you some pictures later. It's and the caption underneath it is the beaver horse of transportation, eh?
Oh, good.
So I think I have a picture here.
Black locos, red. There it is.
Yeah.
That's N scale, by the way.
That's N scale.
Yeah, the fella in Baltimore wanted. He liked the road, so I had the decals made in N scale as well.
Wow.
It's a beaut. So there's the Calgary Southern.
So that was a repaint. The one behind it was a patch out and basically paint and weather.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So that's a bit about your modeling exploits, and then you have a Facebook page out there too that you post. It's almost like a gallery, right?
Yeah. And I'm really ticked off at Facebook because it started out as a Facebook page to help promote the hobby, to pass on my tips and so on.
Right.
They turned it into a business, which it's not. I mean, I do it, but I don't promote it on that site as a business.
Right. Right.
And that's what they do to me. That's Facebook.
So
I think it has to do with the number of followers you have.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you have 2.6 thousand followers out there.
Yeah.
That's quite a gathering of folks that you have out there.
And that's only in 5 years.
In 5 years. Woo. That
surprised the hell out of me too.
Really?
Yep.
You didn't think that anyone would want to stop by and take a peek at what you were doing?
Well, I put it out there, like I always said at when I did clinics and so on. The stuff that I do is not the only way of doing things, but what I know, I want to share with
There you go.
the general public.
Yeah.
So here I am, standing in front of the class, trying to share what I know.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
awesome. So
so
go
you
ahead.
guys asked me to come on here, and I'm here to share what I know.
Yeah. Excellent. So how long have you been essentially, I mean, sound from the sounds of it, like weathering is your niche, right? So how long have you been really in the weathering game, or how long even, like the model railroading bit? How long have you been doing it for?
I've been let's go back to the year I got married. I was collecting trains.
Okay.
We never had a house, so it was collect here and there. And we have a store here called George's Trains that ship all over the world.
Yeah.
I went into the store and I had maybe 20, 25 bucks in my pocket, and there was a River Rossi Y6B there.
Mm,
And I thought, oh crap, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, here's this long engine, right? Steam. Wouldn't that be nice to see going around a Christmas tree or something, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I
So
bet.
I talked to the owner and I said, what do I have to do to own that? He says, do you want it? I said, I do, but I don't have enough money to pay for it. He says, well, you pay for it over time. I said, okay. He said, how much money you got in your pocket? 20 bucks, 25 bucks. He says, okay. He says, give me that. That'll start. So I gave it to him. And before I walked out the store, he had it all packaged up and told me to take it. So that really hooked me into the hobby.
Wow.
So from then on, I started collecting, and it hasn't stopped. I started seriously with a layout um, probably 15 years ago. I was in the crawl space.
Yeah.
My son finally came to me and said, Dad, when are you going to put up a layout? And I said, when we get a place that has space, find me some
Yeah.
space and we'll put up a layout. He went into the crawl space and cleared space. And we built a layout in the crawl space. And I have office chairs that I cut the post off, and the seat sits actually about 11 inches off the floor.
Nice.
Oh wow.
So your head clears the rafters by about 6.
Yeah. So you're not
And
banging your head while you're operating
right.
trains.
So that's
Nice.
how I built a layout under there. And that was there for about 6 years. And then this room I'm in now, I built this room for my youngest son, who became an audio engineer, and we built this as a sound studio. So the sound in here, you can walk from the other part of any part of the house to here, and it's a noticeable difference in the sound.
In the acoustics?
There's the acoustics. The ceiling is soundproofed. The walls are soundproofed. Concrete floor with carpet on it, and it's a double ceiling.
So
He couldn't get a job in the audio business.
yeah.
So his job took him to Australia for a bit. When he left, I took over the room.
There you go.
And when he came back, he said, I guess there's no chance of getting my room back, eh? I said, no, doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. By that time, my other son and I had already built the bench work.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's incredible. So it's been you've had a pretty established journey then in model railroading.
Pretty
And
much.
yeah, so it's been long time coming. So I think that's a pretty good introduction for us, Ralph. Thank you for that. I do want to kick it over to the chat. Joe DeLuso had one question for you right off the bat, Ralph. Do you have a YouTube channel or just the Facebook page?
I do. It's under my name, Ralph
Under Ralph.
Renzetti.
Under Ralph Renzetti.
Yeah, there's two of them, and I have no idea why there's two. One has a bunch of videos on it. The other one only has two.
Nice.
And if you
And so
want to
just
see what the layout looks like, Chris Lyon, CVN, CV,
LVN,
yeah,
CVLVN.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
He did an interview. He came right here because I
Nice.
weathered a couple of locomotives for him. He came here. We did an interview. It's in two parts, and the second part is mostly the layout on what my plans were.
That's awesome. So you do have a presence outside of
Outside of my
Facebook.
little world right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
outside of Facebook, and
Yep.
then you also participate on Model Railroading Live as well from time to
I
time.
do.
Correct?
I do. I used to have a show there,
Okay.
and since I hurt my back, I haven't really gone back on air yet because
Sure.
I can't sit up close and have my arms stretched out under a camera
Yeah.
to do the work, because I normally do it with the work sort of on my chest, sort of,
Yeah.
so that your arm movements are not, way out here. They're tight in here, and you can control your arm movements.
Yeah. Right.
So once that is solved, which it doesn't look like it's going to be, I will have to do what I can. I've got myself a new camera, but I don't have it set up yet. It's actually a document camera.
What is this?
What is this? It's actually amazing.
This might be a good segue into hashtag not
It
sponsored.
very well might be. What
Wow.
is this?
What
could
is
be.
that? I've never seen one of those before.
Plugs into your USB port. Here's where it stores the
Hold
cable.
on a second, Ralph. Let me get you on the big time here so everyone can see this.
Yeah, you're gonna be you're just about ready to sell about 200 of these.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. There's the name.
What's it?
So it's an IPEVO DoCam.
Yeah.
Pivo DoCam.
But it's DoCam. It's like document cam.
Ah, there you go.
And that's what it's for. It's for copying documents.
Huh.
This camera can also be used as a webcam because the head turns.
Yeah.
And there's a button on the side here that allows you to flip the picture upside down.
Oh, so it's always the right side up then.
So it's always the right side up. So if
Gotta
you're in
like
Australia, you can make on like you're in the US.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
That's about I forget now. I think it's about 140 bucks. That's not bad considering.
Yeah.
The camera I'm on right now is a Logitech 600. No, 920. 920.
That's what I have too. So that's fantastic, Ralph. So good introduction and a good segue into hashtag not sponsored. But before we get there, I do want to kick it over to the chat. We have 60 people in the chat tonight. So I just want to give a couple shout outs to the folks that are here this evening with us. So some of the early goers here, Otter Creek and Rio Grande, welcome. MEC M211, welcome. Ryan Folk, David Winther, Camus Chris, Mike Shanky, Randy Doman, Nick LaRusso, Dodo One Ops, welcome. Justin's here tonight. The CNW Mondovi line and HO Scale is here. Joe Gordillo is here tonight. Welcome. Dan's Model Railroading Journey is here. Tom Klimoski. And let's see here. Beerline Modelers here tonight. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Ron, is it Gloradani is here. Robert Thomas. Let's see. John Rose. Yep, we're getting the grease. The band is still setting up tonight. That's right. Colin King and Gaz 3801. Boy, Tom Wilson, Michael Lambertino. Wow, Lambertino is here. Graham Stockfield is here. Looks like we have Marty's Train Shed here tonight from Queensland, Australia. Clark Cooning, Wigwag Workshop, Crown Ironman is first time listening live welcome Crown Ironman. And Tom Holly is here as well. So to the folks out in the chat tonight, just a couple of rules of the road, so to speak. Let's keep the conversation around model trains as much as we can tonight. If you have questions for Ralph about anything to do with weathering and some of the products that he's going to talk about and the tools and techniques, please put them out there tonight. I know there's a lot of people anticipating what can we do with the taco sauce. So I imagine we'll have a little bit of discussion about that. And again, feel free to check Ralph out on all of the social media platforms that we described. We have those in the show notes for the evening. So, all right, I think that is the formalities there, Mike. What do you think?
I think it's a heck of a good start, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we're off and running. So what we'll do then now is we'll go ahead and take our first commercial break. We'll kick it over to the Greasy Meat Hands band for possibly a new intro.
You know those guys were practicing that all week.
All week. The Greasy Meat Hands band was working on that little number. And again, we spare no expense when it comes to production value here at the Second Section Podcast. So we're on to our topic and not sponsored this evening. Hashtag not sponsored. So this is our chance to talk about companies or products or things that we find cool in the world of model railroading. So Mike, how have you got anything for hashtag not sponsored this evening?
I do. And okay, I have to qualify this first though.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Okay.
All right. In our pre-production meeting, we made a decision for this week. And I know you watch how many people leave the chat now. We made it. There is going to be no short line of the show this week. It will be on the next show. But I will tell you right now, because it does relate to my hashtag not sponsored. It is going to be the Iowa Traction Railway. Okay, that's what the next short line of the show is going to be. And while doing some research on this, I came across a thread. Yeah, I know. I understand. I'm out of here. Yeah, I know. I understand.
Right off the bat.
Right away. Yep. So anybody that, traction is one of those things that's kind of hard to model because the model is really, it's not as mainstream, right? So it's not something that it's kind of like being an S scale. You kind of got to know what you're looking for and know where to look, right? To find the stuff you want. Well, I stumbled across, there was a thread or something about, as a matter of fact, it was in an S scale group about a company called Apogee Locomotive Works.
Locomotive Works.
I don't know if you've, wait a minute. I got to do the fancy production stuff here. Hold on a minute.
I've heard of these guys before.
Here they are. Okay. Now, I went through most of this webpage. They've got some pretty interesting stuff. I'm just going to flip over to the shell portion of it. Now, these are HO scale shells, right?
Yeah.
This Baldwin right here, the second one right here, is a MK2 Baldwin Westinghouse Class B, which is one of the locomotives that Iowa Traction has.
Sure.
But they also down here make a different one. And this one says now available in S. So when you click on it, it gives you all sorts of different designs. You can go with a standard pilot, which is what you see right there on the screen. Or if you click on Iowa Traction, it gives you the Iowa Traction pilot. You can get full details or side frames only. You can also select the scale that you want,
Wow.
HO or S for this particular shell. And if you notice, if you click on S, it's $15 more. If you are an HO, it's just a straight $50.
Yeah.
So and I found this really interesting because with researching the Iowa Traction Railroad, these locomotives are really neat and they're really, really old. Like some of these are like over 100 years old.
Yeah, right.
So I thought, what better kind of place to kind of have as a hashtag not sponsored than someone that's actually making products specific to the railroad that's going to be on the short line of the show
Next week.
next
Or
next show
next
the next
show.
show
The
in
next
2
show,
weeks.
yeah.
2
2
weeks.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and I better step up my game. It better be good then, you know.
It better be real good.
But I just kind of thought this was kind of a neat company. I think they've been around for a while.
Sure.
But it just check them out.
Yeah.
It's Apogee, APOGEE locoworks.com.
There you go.
That's what I got.
Well done. Well done, Mike. So, Ralph, we always give the guest an opportunity to share any products or things that they're particularly jazzed about. Did you have anything that you wanted to share this evening for hashtag not sponsored?
Well, you guys are always talking about your taco sauce, and taco sauce is it's fine,
It's fine.
but
Oh boy, why do I feel like there's a butt?
There comes the butt.
it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I
It's
mean,
no big
if
deal, he
if you
says.
love it, use it. Love it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys are familiar with Abteilung 502s. They're oil paints.
No.
They are heavily pigmented, and I use it for my a lot of my weathering on my HO locomotives, not so much on the N scale. But you can make your own taco sauce with this.
Really?
Yeah. To the point where, which is the one I use mostly, it's called German Ochre. ABT 092 is the number, and it's sort of a light rust. And if you make it thin enough with, I use mineral spirits. You can use what do you call it? Odorless solvent. It's called. It's odorless spirits.
Okay.
This is the best thing to use if you're working in the house. You don't have to worry about the smell.
Yeah, right.
Mineral spirits has a strong smell. Some people like it. I don't mind it. But if you mix it, and I mix it in a small little tray like this,
Okay.
and it's nice and thin, almost like to the point where it looks like the thinner after you've cleaned your brush in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And you just take your brush loaded with this stuff and you just drop it on your where you want fresh rust to be.
Okay.
And it's perfect. It comes out that nice orange color.
That's fantastic. So I've seen some of the military modelers and like some of the
Exactly.
wargaming fellas use these paints. Where can you pick? Where do you get yours?
You can order them from. Now this guy ships worldwide. It's called Sunward Hobbies, or Sunward Rockets, actually. He's located here in Toronto.
Okay.
And the guys that I've been dealing with Model Railroading Live, they've been ordering their paints from him because they've been having trouble getting Tamiya paints. That's the other paint.
Yeah, I've been having trouble getting Tamiya as well.
And he has them all.
Yeah. So there's a question coming in here from Grain Express. He says, Ralph, how do you fade black locos and cars to have it look right?
I saw that on the Facebook page, and I thought to myself, I have to make a point of answering this, because the two colors to me that are the hardest to fade properly are black and boxcar red, or
Really?
oxide red. Yeah. Well, in order to get your rust marks to show up properly,
Yep.
the rust doesn't scale down on the black and the oxide like it should, like everything else, all the other colors. It only seems to work on the other colors really well. So my trick is, and I use this with everything I weather. I take a small bottle about the size of a Badger bottle. Well, that is a Badger bottle.
Well, there you go.
And I fill it with 3/4 of it with 99% or 90% alcohol.
Yep.
And about 10% paint. So what it ends up is like about, if you dip your brush in the paint and clean it off in there, about 4 times.
Okay.
That gives you the white fade. This just happens to be a yellowish fade, and the tip of the night is, if you're doing blue,
Yep.
or purple, or whatever, directly opposite is yellow.
Yep.
So there's my yellow fade.
Yep.
And what that does, and you got to be careful with it, because you remember the tip that I gave you about doing a green. It was almost what color was it?
It was a forest green locomotive.
Okay,
I have it right here.
So the tip is the opposite color of the color of the car or the locomotive. So okay. And the problem you had was it turned pink on you.
It turned pink.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the opposite color of green is red. And I always put a couple of drops of red in that mix, which that mix is usually just white for me.
Right.
Put a couple of drops in if I'm working on a green car. If I'm working on a red car, then I'll put a couple of drops of green in.
So that thing that you held up on screen before there, that was a color wheel, right?
It's a color wheel.
Yeah. So this
is not a good color wheel. This came from Green Stuff World.
Yep.
The one that really is best. I mean, you can go on Google and you can get all kinds of them, but there's this one. Where's
this is tip number 1 for the night. So the color wheel was one of the first tips that Ralph shared with me, and it was essentially because I was having all sorts of trouble fading green because it just looked like I had frosted it, because I was doing a white wash on top of it. And so for fading items, Ralph said, hey, try a drop of red in it.
Is that share?
No, I haven't seen a share share post come up. But so then Ralph says, hey, put a drop of red in it. And
no.
Back
what the heck's going on?
Think you got the
There
we go.
Yeah.
So that's a simple color wheel, and that's the one to use, really. So if you look at the red is up here.
Yep.
And red is called a primary color. Yellow's a primary and blue's a primary. So the direct opposite of red is green. Direct opposite of green is red. And it works for every color. What it does, if you have the combination right, it will tone down the color,
Yep.
almost like a pastel.
Yep.
It'll change the shade.
So you start with your 90-10 mix of
Yep.
white, and then you just add like a drop of the opposite color.
Yes. How do I stop sharing? There it is.
Is that because
Yes.
I got a little confused there, but for a second I was like, okay, wait a minute. Do you go straight red then, or do you go so it's white with a little red added to it?
Okay,
Yeah.
Imagine that's the white one. It's all
Yes.
mixed up. It's all white. Okay.
Yep.
So from that, I'll take uh, an eyedropper, or you can get a whole bunch on a brush and let it drip. You want 2 to 3 drops in a full bottle of this. And the full bottle is 3/4.
Right. So it's very little. It's mainly white. So if you have the ratio right, 90% thinner, 10% of the
Paint
white paint, and then
and
just a couple of drops of the
yep,
opposite color on the color wheel.
yep.
So beer line modeler says so opposites for fading. Yes, it's the opposite, but just a tiny amount. So I made a mistake when I first faded that green locomotive.
Hmm.
Basically, I put probably like you're like, hey, just put a few drops red in. Well, I was using Vallejo red, which is a fairly pigment dense paint,
Yeah.
and instead of putting a couple drops in, I went and squirted a bunch in the bottle and it looked like Pepto Bismol. And I sprayed it all over the model. And I go, geez, Ralph, what are you doing? This thing turned pink on me. And
He didn't
then,
speak to me for a couple of months after
yeah,
that.
there was weeping and gnashing of teeth. And but so then Ralph's like, Andy, you overdid it. And it's just a couple of drops. And I made that mistake. But I was able to salvage the locomotive, and it looks good today. So
Good.
that's tip number one. Get that
So now
good look at that
go-
color wheel.
going back to the black, it's basically just the white.
Yep.
With Norfolk Southern locomotives, when I fade them, I I stray a little bit from that. It's the artistic touch, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
Um, I'll add a little bit of blue
Oh, okay.
because black and white, basically, if you remember at school, black and white are not colors.
That's right.
They're
Yeah.
the absence of and the complete of color.
They're to tone up or tone down, right? Is that
Yeah. So I add a little bit of blue so that it's not stark white anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and it blends better with the black. Now, it all depends. Like when I do this 90% mix, I may have, depending on how much of a fade I want, I may have to go from 5 coats to 12 coats before I get what I'm looking for.
Right.
But don't do it all at once. If it's too heavy, if it's too thick that you've made the mixture, it's going to be hard to take it off.
Yep.
So it's better to go light, do a couple of coats, let it dry, because when it dries, it'll show better. Then if you think it needs more, add a couple more coats until you get it to the level where you think it belongs. And from there, then I decide, am I going to use mineral based, or am I going to use acrylics?
Yep.
If I'm going to use acrylics, I can use dull coat, no problem.
Right.
Now, if you're going to use mineral based, like enamel paints or AK or MIG ammo streaking stuff, those are all
Mm-hmm.
mineral based. Then you need to put on an acrylic clear, and
Mm.
and if you're going to do streaking and so on, it should be semi-gloss, not flat.
So is that because of the enamel or the solvents within the enamel eating away at the acrylics underneath?
Well, I'll give you an example of what happened. I was doing a demonstration at Train Expo in Ottawa,
Okay.
and I had prepped a Canadian Pacific AC 4400 the night before with dull coat,
Sure.
all set to do my thing at the show because I
Yeah.
was using the AK interactive stuff. And as I'm putting it on, it was no problem. But it's when you use the AK, and the way I put it on is I slap it on. I don't
Right.
just put a little bit here and a little bit there. I slap it on and manipulate the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So here I am with the mineral spirits, taking it off, and I can see this stuff starting to roll with my brush, and I can't figure out what it is. And all of the dull coat was starting to go gummy and starting to roll off with my brush.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I brushed it off and kept on going. That locomotive is now still on my layout, but now it's a Calgary Southern
Yeah,
engine.
it's a repaint.
Yeah.
So Beerline Modeler comes back, and you just to get clarification. So to fade Milwaukee Road orange,
Hmm.
add a drop of blue to the thinner and white mix, right?
Yep.
So if we had the color wheel back up there and we're looking at orange, on the opposite side of the color wheel would be a blue, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yes.
Yep, just like that.
There you go, just like that.
So then, and then we got one more questioning the color theory here. So Mark Stafford, welcome. By the way, we haven't
Good old
introduced
Mark from Australia.
Yes, good old Mark. Yes. So
Yeah.
if blues tone down the black, what do you use for straight white?
I still use the same fade because you have lettering that's on the car.
Mm-hmm.
You have accent colors that are on the car or the locomotive. So I still use the white.
Okay.
I just don't put anything else in it.
So you don't. So for example, you don't warm it up with a red or anything like that. You just leave it as white,
No,
and it's
leave it
that,
as white.
and it's that 90-10 mix, right?
Yep. Yep. Because once you start to weather it, the whole thing's going to get dirty.
Right.
And that's where you're going to get your warmth from.
Very good. Very
Now,
good.
the dull coat, I don't buy my dull coat in cans. That said, I have 2 cans, but they're my backup in case I run out. I buy it in bottles,
Yep.
and these things are a 1 3/4 ounce bottles.
Yep.
And I mix it 50-50 with lacquer thinner, and
Right.
that's my dull coat, and I put it through an airbrush.
Right.
And you get a finer mist, a better mist than you would if you're just using the rattle can.
Yeah. And that's the same. So with the application of your and of the fade, now that's airbrush only, or can you brush apply that as well?
If I'm going to do a fade by brush, I use oil paints.
There you go.
You need a long working time in order to get the fade where you want it.
Right.
If you use acrylics, they'll dry on you and there's no going back.
Yeah.
You'll have to strip the paint and, well, you can use alcohol to get it off in most cases, but it's not a clean job.
No.
So
It's not.
if you use the oil paints, you have a working time. You can put it down tonight and come back and work on it again tomorrow night and still be able to manipulate it.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it takes more than 24 hours to completely dry.
So that was a good hashtag not sponsored, the oil paints. I really like that. I've seen a lot of people use them, but I've never been able to buy them. And I think we got a couple of good weathering tips just from our first segment tonight. just on color theory. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned from you right away was the color wheel and
Right.
the opposite of that. So I know, Ralph, you said you had to step away for a little bit. I don't know if you need to do that now or in a couple minutes.
I still got about 10 minutes.
We still got about 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we can do in the meanwhile is, um, I'll go ahead and talk about the hashtag not sponsored thing that I want to show this evening. So I'm going to steal the wheel here. Railroad Model Craftsman. So I absolutely love this magazine. Not sponsored, by the way. White River Productions doesn't sponsor us, but there were a couple of folks that were on the show, the Second Section podcast, that are in the October 2022 issue here. So if you guys recognize Cass County, and that's Tom Johnson's Freelanced Railroad, who was on here talking about how to compose a scene. And in the article, which I thought was really, really cool, something new that was brought up. So you notice the track plan, it looks like an aerial, almost like an aerial photo superimposed on the track plan. And it says here that the photo composite was done by Scott Thornton. So that's cool,
really?
right? Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lineage. There's a little lineage here.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and if you go back, and maybe I'm just kind of peddling our own podcast a little bit, but if you get the RMC with Tom's article, or actually cover story in it, and you go and you listen to the composing a scene, you really and look at the pictures in the article, you can really see how Tom, puts things into perspective, frames things, adds those little details that draw your eye in. And he's a fantastic modeler and a great weathering. I mean, he does some great weathering, as you can just see from the cover shot here. But I just thought that was a really cool, I guess, thing for RMC to put in here was Tom Johnson's Railroad. I absolutely loved it. And then on the Boomer Trail, so there's a segment in RMC called the Boomer Trail. And every year after the St. Louis RPM, people get their model pictures put in the Boomer Trail. And one of the Second Section faithful, Justin, has his masterful work here of the Green Bay Depot. I'll get my big fat greasy meat hands out of the way. You can see that right over here on a diorama. And that's the Chicago Northwestern Green Bay Depot. And Justin presented that at the St. Louis RPM this year. So
let me tell you that picture does not do that depot justice.
No,
Justin, you're doing a phenomenal job with that. I can't wait until that whole diorama is all done. That's going to be awesome.
So I'll put a call to action out to the section crew. If you guys are out and about in the hobby press, let us know.
Okay.
We'll get your articles posted up on our page.
Do you have last September's magazine?
I do, yeah.
Not this month's. Last September.
I do have. I have a subscription to them.
Boomer Trail.
Boomer Trail.
One of my locomotives is in there.
Really?
Yep.
Unbelievable. Let's see here. Maybe I can do a quick hashtag not prepared. So let's do
that's pretty much every show though.
But I have the digital subscription as well. So if I go to the digital editions, oh man, if we only had some music here to play in the background.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay.
You want to sing? You want to sing, Mike?
Yeah. No. Would you do us? So we'll bring up the.
We can do a duo.
That would be nice. That would be real nice. So in the September one, that's got the big C&O on it. And let's go to the Boomer Trail here. You know what? You guys should probably play along.
It's a blue switcher.
It's a blue switcher, he says.
Bottom
All right.
right-hand corner.
Let's see here. Oh, I want to do the other one. I want to share the other one. Oh my goodness. This is just an absolute disaster here.
No, this is the high quality production value that our fans have come to expect.
Famous for.
Yeah,
we are infamous. We're so famous, we're infamous. Let me see here. All right, this looks a little better, right? So we have to go to the Boomer Trail. Right here. And let's see, which one are we looking at, Ralph?
Turn the page.
Ooh, turn the page. More page turning?
What?
What? Is it in a different one?
Holy crap. And I've just packed the magazine, so I can't open the box now and pull it out. Yeah.
I'll have to look. We'll have to look for that one.
Oh well.
Maybe some folks from the chat can help us locate
I can show you the logo later.
That would be good. Yeah. So essentially, that's what we had going on for hashtag not sponsored this evening. I do want to congratulate Tom for his wonderful article here in Cover Story, and I do want to congratulate Justin. That was fantastic. So, good work, fellas, and like I said, if you guys have anything else, if you're out in the hobby press and you want to share it with the folks here at the section crew, let us know and we'll get that up on the second section Facebook page, and then we'll also possibly post it up on the show, the live show as well. So I know Ralph does have to step out here.
Yep.
For a couple minutes here, so we'll let him go, and he'll be back with us to ask some questions. But so far, so good tonight, Mike. I have to say,
yeah, not bad. You know, I wish Ralph would be a little more interesting.
yeah,
I mean, if you stop and think about it, really, I mean, we've had Tom Johnson on. He's got an art background. You know, Ralph, you know, obviously art. I'm not sure if his background is an art background, but it's definitely has an artist mentality. We've had Robert Frischella on early on in the show, another, from Old Depot Gallery and stuff, and his S-scale layout artist stuff. It's, we're going to get into this topic a little bit. Is Ralph and I already had a conversation off air about it, and so I'm gonna save the question for him, because it is a little controversial, but it is, but not in a bad way. It's a good talking point, I guess. This would be a good way of putting it. Okay. So, but you never really, until you talk to somebody like Ralph, you never start to really. And you and I have known him for what, 5-6 years now. I mean, it's been a while, right? It's not like we just met him yesterday or anything. I mean, we've known Ralph for quite a while,
right?
And when you really sit down and he explains things, it doesn't take a whole lot of time before the light bulb really starts to click on, and Ralph is Ralph's one of those guys that he's not going to be afraid to. No, that's not the way to do it. This is, this is this. And he's just got in from work. Hello, Boomer. That Boomer again. Boomer. There's another guy. There's another guy talking about art backgrounds and stuff. I mean, years and years, decades in the movie and television industry, and doing all sorts of stuff like that. And there's a whole theme there, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, as modelers, we're trying to emulate, whether we're freelancing or prototype modeling, we're trying to emulate what we see in real life.
Right.
And even if you're freelancing, you're freelancing in theory only. the techniques and everything, and the way you're putting your track down and all these kind of things like that, and the scenery you're doing is still very prototypical as a rule. So I freelance, you freelance, there's several other guys that freelance. You still look at a building a certain way and you say, ooh, I need to make it look like that. And you come home and you want to make your structures look like you see them in real life to make them convincing. Right. So there's a whole theme in this hobby that is kind of, I don't want to say it's really lost, but I think it's neglected. And I really have learned to appreciate the artistry behind what we actually do. Especially in the last several months, and I know you and I have talked. I know you and I have talked countless times about it. It's very enthusiastic. That's not the right word, is it?
No.
It's very oh crap, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. I don't know.
It really gets your blood flowing, your juices going, and your mind working in ways that you
engaging,
other than
right?
There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You take a covered hopper like this. It's not just a Rock Island covered hopper. You might see a photo and see 30 different streaks on there, and you're starting to figure out how am I going to do that? And it makes you start to think of everything. So that's good. That's a good point.
So we got
good point.
60. We have 64 folks in the chat tonight. Let's take a quick straw poll here. Is model railroading art?
Yes.
Or is it just playing with toys? Let us know in the chat here, and we'll post them up there. Remember, be civil and
Mondovi line, exciting. That's the word I was really looking for. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. So let us know. Is it art? Is it not art? Let's and then we'll post some of your replies here. But I guess just to continue to beat the dead horse here, it absolutely is, in my opinion, art. I mean, especially I just went on a fishing trip this last week, and the fish weren't biting. However, I was looking at the shoreline and looking at how the water transitioned to the land and the different colors within the within the undergrowth, and then the tall pine trees and the poplar trees and the birch trees and all of that, and how they all intermingled together, and every tree was a different shade of green almost. And then my mind started thinking about, well, how am I going to turn that into my model railroad, and how could I do that? And so how can I make that transition? What materials could I use to get that those shrubs to look just like what I saw there? So I think we got some good comments coming in here. So David Winther says 100% yes. Drum Rail says absolutely art. Mark Stafford, art for sure. Let's see here. Tom Wilson, art, yes. Dave Nitch, 3D art, yes. So Beerline Modeler, yes, it's art. Camus Chris, it's art. Like
okay, stop right there.
Stopping right here.
All right, now. So Thomas Gazier and the boys over at oh man, what is wrong with my head? The crossing gate. Yeah. And I was just talking to
your cup tonight.
Yeah. But over at the crossing gate, they always talk about that your layout is telling a story, right?
Right.
So
yes.
That's like their big thing. Like your layout tells a story, and your scenery expresses that story. Well, much like a play, you have acts in a play that tell the story. So your layout scene to scene to scene, as you transition through a layout in your scenery, you're telling that's the story of that segment of railroad. And that's where things like the small foundations of an old water tank come in. And you can throw the history of what your line used to be, whether it's prototype or freelance, it doesn't matter. You could do those things, and you're telling that story, and it's an expression. So I found that comment very, very interesting.
Yeah, that was the assimilating it to a different form of art. And you see Mark Stafford comes in here and says sculpture, right? And Dodo one ops frustration. Well, yeah, that comes with the territory, right?
But how many times have you ever remember in Wisconsin, at least, we've had the Starving Artists show?
Oh yeah.
Where, I mean, how many of those guys are? I mean, they're artists. Of course, every artist is frustrated.
Sure. Richard Webb art, Justin art, Joe DeLusso says model railroading is an artistic hobby. We'll welcome Ralph back here. We're just going.
We breached the topic without you.
we breached the topic without you, but it was we wanted to get some fan participation here. So, but we'll cue you in here, Ralph. We took a straw poll in the audience here tonight in the chat, and we said, is model railroading an art, or is it just a guy playing with trains?
And how it came how that came about is we were talking about Tom Johnson, and Tom has got an artist background, and Boomer spent how many years in the movie and has an artist background. Robert Frischella is an artist. Yourself, you've got there's a whole theme there, and we were just talking about the scenes of a play and how a play comes together and telling a story and all of those things. It's all artistic. It's all artistic stuff,
There's a whole thread on this in Model Railroad Hobbyist. And Joe Fugate is of the idea that it's not art, it's artistic engineering or something like that.
Yeah.
But I disagree. I think it's art, and you'll find that if you took a poll of your audience, I'll bet you 60% of them are musically inclined.
Oh.
It's also the right side of the brain. Art is the right side of the brain.
That's interesting.
Engineering is the left side of the brain.
That would explain why I have a hard time with my shoelaces.
No, that's something else, Mike.
That's not the same thing.
That's not the same.
That's not the same thing. Oh.
But we've polled the room, and we've got probably about 40 some responses here, Ralph, and a majority of them, all agree that it is a bit of art. However, some of the other comments do almost reference. I think it was. It's like Andy Crawford.
There's one about the engineering portion of it.
The engineering.
There we go.
Andy Crawford, I know Andy. Andy is an engineer.
Right.
And I won't say much more because I'm not going to knock him.
Oh man, no, I'm just kidding. So, but I think from the stuff that we see on the facade, and I'm just hearing that from Andy and a couple other, I think Fox River Rail fans, that it kind of depends on the modeler, right? But what we see is art. But I mean, like on a layout, right? There's quite a bit of engineering that goes in, to building the layout and all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I think from a, like the actors on the stage in the play, the sculptures of the scenery and the backdrop and the rolling stock and the locomotives. I think that's the big art, and trying to portray that as what your mind's eye interprets real life to be. I think is
Okay.
is
I'll
close
ask
to that.
I'll ask another question that's related to this. And Andy Crawford and I have gotten into arguments about this.
Awesome.
That's right.
All right. So which do you prefer? Painted backdrops or photographic backdrops?
Ooh, I was actually asked to ask you that question, Ralph. I was by somebody.
See now, and Andy has professed to being a rivet counter.
Okay.
Andy Crawford.
Yeah. And he is a prototyper. And most prototypers are not artistic to a degree. It's the guys who step outside the box that are the artistic ones.
So do you feel, Ralph, that there's no place for a photo backdrop? Like
Nope.
if you're trying to like say set a scene, or like want to extend a road or something along those lines, and you want to just have that road look like it's extending beyond the, like into the backdrop and beyond. Photo, Andy. But
I'm
you know
just, I'm
what I
egging
mean?
this on. Just
So-
egging this on.
So like there's ways, like Tom Johnson is exceptionally good at blending that
Thank you, Scott.
photo backdrop into the rest of it, but his whole, it's like very small little postage stamp areas. It's not like the entire thing.
Well, you have to think about it. And when you're trying to do a roadway into the backdrop, you're talking an area that's probably no bigger than about 4 inches square.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
And you have to hide where that road and so on ends, or the tree line or whatever, so that you can do your sky, because you don't want what's in the background. Chris Adams is a good one. He's been doing very well about putting his roadways into the background, into the backdrop, and it's worked out well for him.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I won't do it, but that's a big wall. That's an awful lot of photographs that you're going to have to find, and then you're going to have to shrink them down to HO scale. Why not just paint it?
So one of the things that I've done, I think, and I'll jump in here and stick my foot directly into my mouth immediately after I say it, but I
let us be the judge of that.
Yeah, let Ralph be the judge. I'm actually of the mentality that you should probably have a bit of both, right? So what you can see behind me here, so I've painted the sky in, and then where I have the dense forest, kind of covering the backdrop where you actually wouldn't see through the trees anyway. I've just used I use my airbrush and a couple of stencils essentially to simulate the tree line in the background. And then I fade that based on how far deep or how far the depth of the scene needs to be. So I think it's a bit of both and I think one of the other things that there's something to do with it is the depth of your scene, like the physical depth.
Yes.
Could also contribute to should you paint, should you not. But I don't think it's a hard fast rule. I think there's a bit of a comfort there, and this is me taking the cop out right here.
No, it's not a cop out.
But I think there's a bit of comfort, and I think there's a bit of I guess what does your eye like,
But see, now the key is, and there's two rules. It's my railroad.
There you go.
Yep.
And if you see anything on my railroad that you question or you disagree with or whatever, refer to number 1.
Yeah, right.
Refer to rule 1.
Right.
It's my railroad. There's no cut and dried answer to this.
Right. It's like the old adage: "There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat," right? So I mean,
Which cat?
it doesn't matter. Just
Is
any
it
of them.
Schrodinger's cat?
Yeah,
Let's just
Schrodinger's cat.
wait. I'm getting a bit of a message here from my lawyer saying that we didn't hurt any animals in this
Oh yeah,
podcast
no.
this evening.
But
So
I mean,
True.
honestly, I mean, there's a million different ways to do a lot of stuff in this hobby, and
Mhm.
some things, just like backdrops, like you said, there's no wrong way of doing it. It's whatever comfort level you feel you're at, and that's like you said, Ralph. It's your layout. You can do what you want, and if people don't like it, well, you know what? It's your layout.
Right. You
so
the listeners can tell us to go stick it and do their own thing, you
well,
know.
and I think Scott Thornton, he says it's a fun debate as long as all are civil. So
It's a lot more fun when we get yelling it.
yeah, maybe so. So I do want to so that was an interesting topic about art, is it art? And then we kind of evolved into the backdrop topic as well.
I think it is.
Yeah, I agree too. I think
I
I
do
think
too.
I think it's certainly an art form.
So that's 3 S's. So it's definite.
It's
Yeah,
art.
it's going
That's
to.
it.
Yeah, they're going on to Hollywood.
That's it. They're going
That's right.
out. So
I mean,
anyway,
there is a definitely a learning curve to it, though. Wouldn't you agree, Ralph?
Absolutely. Oh
I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's not something you're just going to. And I've always been the plywood Pacific kind of guy, where I'd get a layout all nice and built, and I'd tool around and operate it and everything else like that. And doing scenery was always the furthest from my mind, because I was always afraid of doing scenery because I didn't want to mess stuff up. And now I'm not afraid to make those mistakes,
Was it really that you were afraid to mess stuff up, or was it? And this is where I find a lot of guys rest. It's not that they're afraid to do it. It's because they don't know what to do.
There's a large part of that too. And now I'm getting more comfortable in my modeling skin, so to speak, to say, oh, I can go and try that. Oh, Ralph showed me how to do this. I'm gonna give that a try. I mean, that's why you practice, right? That's why you can go and practice on scrap pieces of paste before you do it for the real thing.
Do you remember what I said to you when you wanted to do the down and dirty contest?
No, but you're gonna tell me anyway.
Okay, so and I say this at every clinic I give. Practice, practice, practice. The more you
Yes.
practice, the better you get. The better you get, the more confidence you build. The more confidence you build, you're willing to tackle anything. When I first started weathering, I had just bought Broadway Limited Mikado.
oh,
And I thought to myself, there's no way in hell that I am going to make that thing dirty and destroy it. Right now, I have no problem doing it whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because you were Andy and I were talking about this the other day. As I showed Andy that car, and I was talking about the fact that I see that car that I did for that down and dirty contest, and now, what was that? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. That
It was the first contest. That was
very
number
first
one.
Yeah, I look at that car now and I see. Uh-oh. Something come from.
we're getting a transmission from outer
Yeah.
space.
From outer space, yeah.
But I look at that car now, Ralph, and I say, wow, this isn't bad for a first attempt. Because now there's no way I'd let my car, I would actually enter a car that looked like that.
Right.
It still looks good. It looks nice, but I can now see, where I made mistakes and how I could have blended things differently and made things not as harsh here and a little bit more subtle here. And I can actually see those things. And that comes with time, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Do you remember what kind of paints you used?
Oh,
Acrylics?
I think I think I was using oils at that point for the first time. And I was using I think I started to use some of Mike Confalone's theories on how to use oils at that point for streaking and things like that. Like I say, everything comes with a learning curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
it does.
and so it's now I look at the car and I'm like, it's going to stay on my layout because it's nice and weathered. It's a cool looking car, but
Yeah.
boy, I know I can do a lot better than that,
Yeah, and I think that so that's tip number 2, right? Or actually tip number, we're on like 45 now, but I think it's an important one, right? So when it comes to weathering, right, that the even just like getting up there and trying it, and I think Scott Thornton said, we'll just paint a scrap piece of plastic, and you can practice on that. You can go and grab some cars from like a swap meet or something, where they got the 5 for 10 deal or whatever going on. You can just practice on some old Bachman, or some stuff like that. And you can just spray dull coat on top of that and practice it. And you'll be surprised when you just play with it while you're practicing, how good it's going to turn out. And
you got to pay attention to what you're doing, though.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you want to be able to repeat it if it worked out well.
Right, exactly. So this is there's a couple things that, and I know Mike, you got a million questions that you want to ask, but I've been getting a lot of questions in the chat about that high level process, Ralph. So what are the must when you go to weather a model, what are the must haves that, like what are the things that you always do to start that process? So we talked about.
I always have that bottle of Fade.
The Fade.
Regardless, I always use that.
Okay.
I have to decide before I start the model, am I going to use the AK or MIG ammo mineral-based products? Because that is going to tell me whether I use dull coat or not.
Okay.
I can use powders. I do not use on locomotives or on rail cars. I do not use pan pastels.
Hashtag not sponsored.
I wasn't even. Okay, hold on a minute, Ralph. Andy started smiling because we both know how you feel about this. So
we've had a lot of discussion about it.
We've had a lot of discussion about it, and between the three of us, and we know. And all of a sudden, I seen Andy get that grin on his face, and I'm just sitting here going, "Really? I wasn't even going to bring it up. I was."
But yeah, so you.
Listen,
but now I will say this, Ralph.
It doesn't mean I don't have them. I do.
Right there, you go.
Hey, Ralph. Okay? Ralph, I'm going to tell you something right now. I am now beginning to understand where you're coming from with those. Now, I'm never going to admit that to you in public, but
except for I just did.
And I got a whole bunch of witnesses. How many people we got watching now?
We got 62 people in the chat tonight still.
I am truly starting to understand when you talked about pan pastels, because it is a very good product, but it does have a specific application.
It does.
Media, for its use.
They're great for doing your scenery, your buildings, your structures, and so on. But they're chalk, basically.
Yeah.
And they're not paint pigment that's ground even finer than that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we derailed you, unfortunately, on your process, Ralph. So you were on the powder game, and you were determining what powders that you need to use.
Right. So if I'm going to use powders,
yep,
I'll do the dull coat.
Yep.
And I use I used to be an AIM distributor, but they're not AIM anymore. They're Monroe powders.
Monroe, right.
You can get them through Walter's catalog. They're easy to get a hold of. I think there's 13 colors altogether, whereas Pan Pastel has up to 72.
Right.
The Monroe powders are basically all earth tones. And to me, they're the best, because I have a brush. I don't even have it handy now. Let's say the brush started out like this with where's the camera? about that big a head on it. Just
Yeah.
going the wrong way here. My brush now is probably about a quarter of that,
Okay.
because in order to get the powders to go on and to stay on, you have to scrub.
Got to
And
grind them in, right?
I watch guys on YouTube. They'll use a fan brush or a puffy makeup brush,
Mm-hmm.
and just puff it on. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it looks good until you go to spray over it to fix it with a dull coat or whatever. And most of them are using a spray can fixative, and
Mm-hmm.
that just blows the stuff right off.
Exactly right.
Somebody's saying Doc O'Brien's. Doc O'Brien's is also a paint pigment. And that's
And
the whole key. It's a paint pigment. It's
right.
finely ground, and once you grind it in, it stays.
Right.
The nice part about them, and Pan Pastel does the same thing, if you don't like what you did, you can go back with I use paper towels, or you can use a cloth, wet, and you can wash it off.
Mm-hmm.
The nice
How
part
about
about it is that color doesn't all come off. It sort of goes into the crevices too when you take it off, which is
Right.
where you wanted it in the first place.
Right.
how about Vallejo pigments there, Ralph?
I've
recently purchased some bottles of it, and because I wanted to try it.
I have 2 bottles, and I'm reluctant to try them because I still have the Monroe powders,
Yeah.
or the
Right.
aim powders. Why should I use them? And I got them only because I was at the hobby store, and my boss was a military modeler, and that's where I got a lot of my techniques from.
Yep.
Uh, just take a little detour here. That one of the things that working at the store did for me was being able to identify a military modeler or a railroader as they come in the door. And my boss had it down pat. He says, "You just watch." My first day there, he said, "You just watch." He says, as they come in the door, and it's not because I know them, even a stranger, I'm going to tell you where they're going to go to. On the right-hand side was the railroad side. On the left-hand side, in the middle of the store, was military. As they came in, he'd say to me, either military or railroad. And that's exactly where they went. And the military guys will cruise the whole store because they use the railroad scenery stuff as well.
Yep.
The railroad guys will not go to the military side. So they're losing out on all of the products that the military guys use, on all the techniques that they use. Scott Thornton is one he's keyed in on the military guys. If
Yep.
I can give you another tip, if you can get a hold of a magazine called the Weathering Magazine.
Okay.
Oh, I think
It's by Mig Ammo.
I might have one of those someplace in a pile somewhere.
And you have to look past the military theme and look at the techniques, because that's what works.
Yes. Yes. So that's I think that's under the Mig Jimenez
Yep.
page, correct?
Yep.
And he has a whole host of categories out there, and publications that essentially give you the theory behind weathering.
Mike, what are you holding up?
I'm holding up now. See, now I'm totally jealous because I want that. I just happened they didn't have it when I was over at the store.
But you see, the thing is,
I just have these basic earth tone ones. Is what
you've got the
ones
earth tone ones, and there's the rain. I forget the names now, but 3/4 of these I don't use.
Yeah, I got black and white and the dirt and marks set. Those are the 2 sets that I got because I figured those had the colors that I would use the most.
Exactly.
And these are the AK weathering pencils. Is
Yep.
what we're showing here, Andy. Is
they're watercolor pencils?
Yeah, there we get a little better type.
Yeah, I got you, Mike.
Yeah, so I mean, it's they're. I've only kind of dabbled with it a little bit, just playing around, trying to do like weld lines or seams of certain things to like highlight, to use
What
it
have you
as like
done?
a highlight. Oh, I just messed around with a covered hopper is what I did. I don't even know
Okay.
what I did.
On the Facebook page, on the second section Facebook page,
Yes.
there's a picture that keeps coming up that I posted. It's part of one of the this little diorama that I did.
Yeah. Right.
Is
Yeah.
the oil barrel.
Yes.
That was
the
done
oil.
with these. That was done with
Really?
these.
That's amazing. That oil.
You're kidding me. There's nothing
No.
else you did with it?
The
Just-
only thing I did with it was use some black enamel paint to get that oil streak down the drum.
So, wow. Okay.
Wow.
So, okay.
all right.
I guess my I guess appetite is pretty wet here now. So, and I know a bunch of the folks in the chat are asking for it. So Ralph, can we show some pictures of the work and kind of talk through some of the techniques that you've, like some of the higher level techniques, if you would be so gracious to help us out with some of this, because there are just, everyone here is frothing at the mouth. And while you do that, Scott Thornton has asked here, have you tried any of the VMS products from the Military Modelers line? I know a lot of guys out there use VMS.
Okay. I have an old tester's rack here that I have all kinds of paint on.
Mm-hmm.
So I must have 70 bottles of paint here.
Yeah.
I also have behind me a tester, Tamiya rack, and that's only half of what I've got.
Yeah.
I have 2 racks like this above me here with the AK and ammo, and then the Vallejo paints. And I also have mission models, and mission models I'm not really thrilled with, although they work well, but I'm not
It's just
thrilled
not
with.
your favorite.
And there's a reason for that. I'm not going to tell you that on the air. But I also invested in some new paints. Where are they? I forget the name of them now. Hang on a second. But
Andy, I'm gonna share this picture while he's doing this.
Do. That's what I was hoping for here. Can you zoom in on that at all?
That's it. Oh, maybe some more.
There you go. Now scroll down. There you go. Perfect. Now we're looking. And then if you can even, so there's that double arrow in the upper right there.
Yeah.
Click on that little guy. There we go. Now we get rid of all the crud. So that's the barrel.
That's the barrel. And that was done with the AK pencils.
Yep.
Except for the oil streak.
The green and white is Tamiya paint.
Unbelievable.
That's insane. But that's what no, how did you do that oil? You see, you can see this. You can see down here. You see the ring, the stain, right, in the wood.
That's the enamel paint.
That's an enamel.
That's an enamel.
Yeah, that's the same paint that I used to get that oil dripping down the barrel.
Right.
And then
you notice it's kind of shiny too, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the enamel with the glossy, shiny effect, and then you use the colored pencils for the rust effects and the fading.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
what scale was this done?
That's 1/24 scale.
Okay, so how
That's
long
so
did
cool.
it do? How long did it take you to just do this barrel? Do you
Sitting here at my computer in the evenings, probably 2 evenings.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Boomer says he'll take 50 of those, Ralph, please.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Well, that was
And
something I wanted
I've
to.
been
I wanted
trying to
bring
get a
that
hold
up.
of him.
I would love to get a hold of him, but because between the two of you guys are ruining my pocketbook.
No. Listen,
We're enhancing your fun.
Yeah, that's what it is.
you can do a lot with paint. You don't have to have the weather. You've already got the weathered pencils,
Yeah.
Right.
and you probably got some old Testers Pactra paints that you used when you were a kid. Those
Yep.
little bottles. That's the
Yep.
enamel bottles,
Yeah.
and you use mineral spirits with those. Thin them out.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
You don't have to go out and spend a wad and get all excited about it. You can get excited about just doing it, experimenting.
Yeah. So Ralph, can we walk through a couple of pictures maybe on your Facebook page
Okay,
of some
hang
of
on
your
a
work,
second.
or do you have some stuff that you want to show?
I have some stuff here that I can show you.
Okay. This is
I do have one request though, Ralph.
Okay.
Could you explain if you show it, could you explain how you did the fade on that maroon locomotive that you posted? That most recent one, I think, that switch
that
engine.
switcher.
That thing turned out so amazing. It inspired me to go in that direction for my Farland Terminal, potentially for my Farland Terminal paint scheme.
That's the South Brooklyn Railroad.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That turned out so good.
That was Tamiya paints to start with a little bit of fade. I didn't use any oils on that, but most of it was all weathered with the weathering pencils.
Wow. Got a ways to go here.
Yeah. So as we bring the pictures up here from Ralph, I just want to post it out there to the folks in the comments section here tonight. So just post your questions out there, and we'll make sure to get those on as they come up here. And if you have something here for Ralph and how he does some of these techniques, just let us know.
Now, Ralph, as you're going through these and stuff and explaining them, the one question I have regarding all these, because you do so many different scales, is that you find that you can get away with doing some things in certain scales that you just can't in others because of the size or...
Okay, so let's start with the larger scale. Whatever you do in the larger scale, it has to be exaggerated from what you're doing S, I'm doing HO.
Right.
But as you get down in size, a lot of the things don't translate, like gloss paint. To have a fully gloss paint on an N scale locomotive is just not it. To me, it's wrong.
Sure.
Right.
But whoever wants to have that, and I had that on the detailed tips and weathering tricks, which I'm moderator on. Somebody wanted that. They wanted to go the reverse. They wanted to have this gloss on N scale. And I thought to myself, whatever you want, you got it. But
right.
things just don't scale down. So in order to have a shiny surface in N scale, it's more of a semi-gloss or a satin.
Oh.
So Ralph, if I'm thinking about this correctly, then so as you have to increase or decrease the effect with scale.
Yes.
Because the effect itself is scaled.
So do you remember that old phrase, less is more?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Well, the smaller the scale gets, the more that applies.
Wow.
And if I'm telling anybody to do any weathering or whatever, don't do it from your head. Use a prototype picture. And if you can't get a prototype picture of the locomotive you're doing or the road you're doing, get 2 or 3 of that locomotive with the techniques that you like and mix them in together. But don't do it from your head. Use the photos as a guide.
So that and then that'll help you.
That's a great tip.
and that'll help you get the right effect in the right location, right? So like if you're doing grease
Exactly.
on the let's say a locomotive side frame on the bearing journals,
Yep.
those types of things. So you get that detail in the absolute right spot. And that was one of the things that I learned as well.
So we go back to the powders again. So on this locomotive, I use watercolored gouaches, and I found that the Winsor Newton are the I get the best reaction or the best finished product from them. There are other products out there that I don't think are as good. They're not as uh, pigment intense as the Winsor Newton are.
Okay.
And I apply it. It's a watercolor. So what I have a broken ceramic tile, and it comes in a tube like toothpaste. So I squeeze a little bit out on the tile,
Yep.
and I use and this is where you don't have to go out and get the expensive stuff. I use a window washer from my car, and I have it in a pump spray, and I use that to keep wetting the surface of
Okay.
the where the paint is if it starts to dry up. So I use makeup sponges, and you got to be real careful with a makeup sponge. If it's too wet, you're not going to get the rusty look. You're going to
Right.
get a messy look. So my measure of how damp the sponge is, and I use like I say, the window wash, and I put it in the palm of my hand and I squish it around. So now I have a ball in the palm of my hand and I squeeze it as hard as I can. So I get all the moisture or liquid out. And that sponge now, if I was to put that to a Kleenex, will not leave a damp mark.
Hmm.
Okay. It might
Yeah.
just barely, but that's the idea. That's how damp you want it. Dip it in the gouache and then dab it quite a few times on the tile to spread it out so you don't have a
Yeah.
big blob. And then I add it to the corners here where the hand is. I add it to
Okay.
the corners, and I do it over, and maybe up on the top and the lines here. And because you're using a sponge, you're not getting brush strokes, and you're dabbing it, you're not stroking it.
Right.
Then I go
So
back to the pigments, and you notice here it looks like festering rust,
yeah.
like blisters.
Yep.
So I have hairspray in a pump, not a spray can, a pump.
Okay.
I'll pour some of that out into a paint palette, and I take my pigment that's close to the color I used for the rust on the roof, and I'll dip a brush into the hairspray, into the powder, and then onto the corner of the locomotive. And if that's not enough, I'll go back and get some more powder and put it on. I let it dry. When it's dry, I'll come back with my sponge and the gouache just to blend the colors in, because the powder's not necessarily the same color as the gouache.
Okay, no,
And
no, Ralph, did you? I might have missed this, but did that whole roof start out as the same color as the side of the cab, or
yep, it did.
okay? Because I could just barely right at where the transition is from the flat portion to the angled portion, right through, yeah, right where the hand is. If you look real close, you can actually see that same color. Like you can see where that color is if you look real
Right,
closely
right,
to it.
right there. Yeah.
Yep, right and through that area. But then it
There's some more over there.
and then it transitioned and fades away to the more rusty stuff, to
Mm-hmm.
where it's been, essentially worn away, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Okay.
I have a couple of questions for you, Ralph.
Yep.
So the first one is from Otter Creek in Rio Grande, and he's asking, did I miss the detailed explanation of the gouache? And I just want to make sure that we didn't overlook that one bit before we carried on, because it
Where
seems
did
like
my
this technique is really, really fantastic for
Okay,
like
let me just stop sharing for a second.
yeah, sure thing. Let me pull you back up on the main screen here.
Okay, so this is the Winsor Newton gouache. That's how it comes in a tube like that,
Comes in a tube.
and you squeeze it out on a tile. That, and the colors I use are burnt umber, raw umber, burnt umber, raw sienna, burnt sienna.
Yep.
I have yellow ochre, and I have a white and a black. Now I hardly ever use the white and black, but those are the colors I use. And
Yep.
if I'm doing it, I go from dark to light.
Dark to light.
Dark to light.
If you and the thing you have to watch out with gouaches, if you want them to blend, they will, but if you're happy with the first coat you put on and you go to put a second coat on, it may destroy the work you did on the first coat.
Yeah, you
So
just blast it away.
So what I do is I put another light coat of dull coat, and then go and do my next one.
So Boomer comes. Don't give all the secrets away, Ralph. Yeah. Yeah.
Boomer, you said the same thing. You're here to share. So
right. So, and then I guess the other question going back to the roof then. So, and it was, is this with the military modelers, they may use a technique called chipping.
Yep.
Would they use the same to achieve the same effect?
Okay, there's a way of doing it. They do it with hairspray.
Yep.
Or guys will go out and spend the money and buy the chipping fluid that the company provides. I get more consistent results from hairspray than I do from that chipping fluid.
There you go.
Is there a specific brand that is better than others for doing that?
Okay.
Aquanet.
What you want is the firm hold, the high hold.
Yep.
Oh, what the hell was the name of the where it is? There it is.
Probably like White Rain or something crazy like that.
No, Tresemme.
Tresemme. That's in my product line. I use that on my shampoo.
There
so
you
if
go.
you're having a little bit of a bad day and you can't get the hold in your hair when you're weathering your models, you just throw a little of that in your hair and put a little on your palette, and away you go.
Now, I don't know whether you guys have seen the junkyard find that I did. Like I was telling you earlier, I'm doing all this stuff for customers and so on, and trying to build my layout, and I need a break every once in a while. So when I take a break, I start doing things like this. This is an ocean mine, a ship mine.
Yeah.
That's going to be beached, and I have a young lady that's going to sit on top of it.
Oh no.
That's one thing. Another one that I've been playing with, and this is leaning towards Boomer's way of doing things, and I've been doing this for a while too, is using artist glazes,
right,
gloss, and so on. And all this is a piece of pink styrofoam, carved like ocean waves.
Wow.
And it's glossed over with artist gloss.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Of course, you have to put some texture in it as well. So
right.
That's a one-man sub.
That is awesome.
I also did a Star Wars diorama. And like I say, the junkyard find. The junkyard find was a fun build. It really was.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times as well. So there's a there was a couple of that junkyard scene that was quite good. Was that the one with the dog?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
the one.
was.
And what did you end up naming the dog? Did you name
I
him?
No,
Did
we didn't. There was we had that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. You
I made
remember.
the suggestion Knuckles, and,
And we never actually named it.
yeah, but I
Uh,
think that's an interesting point. This, and I'm gonna make a shameless plug for our own podcast here, but we talked about model railroading burnout in the hobby, and I think a great way to stave that off is to take on a separate subject, like making the little dioramas and just kind of having fun with it. I think that's a fantastic way to stave off the burnout, and it gives you a good opportunity to practice your skills as well. So I think that's Ralph, I think that's super cool what you did with a bunch of those dioramas or little vignettes that you made there. I can't wait to see how the land or the sea mine turns out. That's going to
That
be
one's that's gonna be
it's going to be an
awesome.
interesting
That's gonna be awesome. The
yeah.
the one I remember you doing, Ralph, is you and I had a conversation one night a while ago, and you
there's a
showed
dog.
me, and that's awesome. But we were talking, and you showed me just this cap, and you asked me, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "I have no idea." And it was the cap off of an applesauce pouch that you would give
Oh
like when I was
yeah,
a kid.
yeah,
That
yeah.
little spaceship. Do you remember that little spaceship that you did?
I was trying to find that on in my files today, and I couldn't find it.
I'll never forget that, because when you got done with that, I was like, there is no way you would look at that and ever think that that's what that was from.
Well,
Because
here's something else. When I was in the hospital and I had the prostate surgery, um, I have a what do you call it? A CPAP machine that I use, and they brought me distilled water, and these caps are from the distilled water bottle.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought these things are excellent. They would be great for the exhaust portal of a jet engine.
I was just gonna say they look like an engine cowling of some sort,
Yeah.
Yeah, or even on like a spaceship or something like that, right?
So I saved them.
Yeah.
It was fun. What the hell?
Yeah, right.
I've done it before.
Yeah.
I've done it before. What the hell?
Yeah. So before so I want to give the audience here, the folks out in the chat tonight, any more opportunities. We talked about the pencils, we talked about different types of rusting and almost like a chipping type technique. Talked about fade. We talked about using real photos to get inspiration and place your weathering effects appropriately. Is there anything else out there that you guys want to soak up from Ralph tonight as he shares all of the little secrets in weathering that we're just dying to learn? So,
I have one more question.
and Mike
Okay.
has a question.
I have a question.
I also have an explanation for something else too, but go ahead.
Okay.
How do you keep what you're doing fresh? Like do you take and ever just driving around someplace and say, wow, that looks kind of like a neat effect. I wonder how I could do that on a model. Or do you ever say, like, come up with something new that you've done or seen something that you've never done before and said, I want to try that? And like keeping, because things can become mundane, right? Like if you do it over and over and over. So how do you keep your inspiration going to just not get, like Andy said before, in that funk where you know
There's a bunch of guys that I follow military guys, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Also, when I'm driving around, if I pass a construction site that has an interesting piece of equipment that I haven't seen before.
Yep.
I mean, everybody has a camera with them. They got a cell phone, so take some pictures. That's how when I first started doing Rust, I would just pull up and take pictures of rusty tracks on a tractor, and the guy would say, "Are you nuts or what?" I said, no. But you do these things and you make a collection. So I have a collection of rusty things on my Facebook page, the weathering page. If you go through the pictures, there's a whole thing there on rooftops of cars.
Yes.
When was the last time? I mean, you're an engineer, so you get to
Yep.
see that stuff. But when was the last time you saw all these railroad line photographs and local photo dot, whatever? None of them have pictures of the tops.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Next time you're out and you're just happen to be going over an overpass and it's got lots of traffic going underneath it, stop and take some pictures. They're invaluable.
It's absolutely right.
That's good advice. That's really, really good. I mean, in today's age of the drone, that kind of helps too. If you have somebody that knows,
If you do, yes.
you know.
So Ralph, you said you were going to impart some more wisdom upon us this evening. You wanted to explain
Yeah.
one more thing.
Well, there's a whole bunch of things, but
Well, hey,
anyway, you were asking about chipping. So
yeah, we were.
I told you the hairspray or the liquid type. Now, my ceiling, I just happen to be lucky. My ceiling here, because this was a soundproof room, has this dimpled foam on it. It looks like egg crate.
Yeah.
And it's what they call closed cell foam. And if you ever see any packaging that has this eggshell foam in it, save it.
Yeah.
Because what you do is like there's just a black piece of foam.
Yep.
And this is really soft stuff. The one that's on the ceiling is a little bit more stiff, but you can use a sponge like this,
Yep.
or a sea sponge, a natural sea sponge, to create chip marks. And I also use toothpicks to create chip marks.
Yeah.
But you have to be really random, and that's hard to do. Really random. So I'll do a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow, or put it away for an hour and start again, and then come back and add some more gouache on top of that, just to sort of blend it, sort of.
Okay. And
But this is done the same way as the makeup sponge, but because this is a closed cell, it's going to give you little dots, whereas the makeup sponge is very smooth and it gives you a smooth finish.
So let me just, is it kind of like a dry brushing technique? So you dip the sponge in the material, you wipe it off till you get the, so you don't just blob it on type of deal.
Right. You like just like with the makeup sponge, once you got the color on it, you go to a blank spot on the tile or a piece of paper or whatever and get as much off as possible. Well, not as possible, because you want some still on the sponge.
Right.
And then just dab it lightly until you get the effect you want. And it's usually only on the edges or corners.
That's right. Where you'd have the wearing of the paint, right?
Yep.
Kind
Now,
of like
Mike,
kind of like stippling a little bit.
Yes.
Like you're stipple.
Right. It's just dabbing it. Don't stroke it, otherwise it's not going to be chipping.
Right, then it's
going to
streak.
be streaking. Mike pointed out something the last time we were online, when we used to do our Saturday night thing. Being an engineer, coming out of the cab, or going into the cab, you would rub your shirt or uniform or whatever against the edge of the hood, and it would leave like a clean mark.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's just something you can add
Huh.
to the finish.
Don't tear your shirt when you do that, though.
You have to open the door a little bit more then.
A little bit wider, yeah. Trust me, I literally just did that the other day. I was like, oh man.
And then
So the
go ahead, Ralph.
the
I'm
other
sorry.
way of doing chipping is with salt. Now, the problem with the locomotives that we have, they're already painted by the manufacturer. So now what we're doing is when you want to add effects like rust or paint that's worn off and you see a rust layer below, that has to be additive.
Right.
But if you're repainting, you paint a rust color first. And I do it, to me, it has 3 or 4 different colors. My favorite one is linoleum deck brown.
Okay.
And that's what I used on coloring my rails. But you end up with, where the hell did it go? You end up with a finish that you paint the car or whatever it is brown first.
Yep.
And then when it's dry, I usually put a coat of semi-gloss clear so that I don't burn through the rust color, because then you end up with plastic underneath.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Then you spray it with, I use the window wash again from the car.
Okay.
And I have 3 grades of salt. You have, what do you call it? Coarse salt that you use to throw on your sidewalk in the wintertime.
Yep.
And then I have kosher salt, which is, again, rock salt, but it's very finer. And then you have table salt. So you can take the rock salt and you can crush it and have all different types. And when this was all painted brown, okay? And then you wet it with the window wash and you sprinkle it where you want the rust to be.
Wow.
Let it dry. Let the salt and the window wash dry in place. Then you come back with the white color and you spray the roof. When that's dry, you rub off the salt, and with a soft brush, you rinse off all of the salt residue, and you end up with what looks like right there. So
it's amazing.
Most of the roof
awesome.
here has been hit with a gouache afterwards.
That's really,
holy cow.
So basically we're looking at the roof of, what are we looking at here? An old VW bus?
VW bus.
Yeah, an old VW bus. And how the roof of an old car would, or van would essentially just, kind of rot away from the center out towards the edges. And you can, what the chipping effect here has done is really give that
Yep.
randomness to the edges of the rusts on the edges. And it's just really fantastic effect.
So you can see it there.
Yep. Now we're
this on the side here. This was the hairspray technique.
okay.
And pick that with a toothpick.
Oh, cool. So is it more of a feel that you use one chipping technique versus another, or is there a bit of means to the madness as picking like the the one, using salt technique versus hairspray?
On this build, I was experimenting with everything.
Okay.
Even the dirt that's down around the bottom here.
Yeah.
That's all the crap that I got from my mechanic when he did my brakes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
So that's real rust.
That's real. Those are just, the rust flakes from, oh
Yeah.
my God, from
And
your
I
rotors
glued
and your,
I
that's
glued them in
awesome.
place.
That's cool.
And there's a hula dancer on the dashboard.
No.
Yep, I can see her. I see her.
And there's
That's
a computer.
awesome.
There's a computer here that has a picture of this bus when it was in its better day.
Oh my gosh.
Holy
I
cow.
saw the keyboard through one of the skylights in the roof on the one side, and sure, look at that. You can see that in the right hand side of the screen, a little laptop. Oh, wow. So just to can you ballpark what was the time sunk into this one? This is fantastically detailed diorama.
This took about a month to do.
A month to do. Amazing.
The canvas roof was done with epoxy resin.
Okay.
The 2-part epoxy, but it's a paste, and I rolled it out like pizza dough,
Yeah.
and then folded it back on itself to get that camper thing.
Yeah.
And then I also made a brass frame. There's a better look with the busted window.
Oh yeah, look at that window.
And
I like the headlight.
the headlights falling out.
Yeah. That's really well done. Unbelievable. So there was just one other question that I had here from the chat here. Scott Thornton asked, "So how do you what do you do with streaking effects? Is there a Ralph method to that?"
There is.
There is.
There is. And I tried to explain it to Scott personally, but
Maybe he's teasing that out of us tonight so that he can share that with the
okay.
the rest of it.
The military guys will be specific about where they want it.
Yep.
I don't do that. You've seen the locomotive that I did for Joe Fugate. That was the best one. Well, one of the best ones. But I do one side at a time. Start on the roof, then a side and an end, and then do the other side and the other end. And you have to be careful when you start going around the corners, so that if you have any overlap that you didn't clean up and it dries, it's hard to get it off.
Yeah.
So I coat the whole thing, the whole side, with my favorite is 1202 streaking grime. MIG ammo.
Grime. MIG ammo.
Yeah. And then I come back. They recommend you using white spirits.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. When it comes down to using white spirits, and we're talking Canada, I don't know what the prices are in the US. That little bottle,
Yeah.
which is, I believe it's 1 ounce. That little bottle costs $7.
That's insane.
That little bottle from Home Depot cost me $2.50.
Right?
Mineral spirits, same thing.
So white spirits, mineral spirits,
same thing.
Same thing.
It's funny that you say that, Ralph, because I think you've told me this before in the past, and I've seen Boomer on his videos have talked about it. It's like with the IPA, you can get gallon of that stuff cheap.
Yep.
If you buy the bottles that the companies want you to buy, you're going to pay through the nose, right?
Okay, so you
and
go
and it's the same stuff.
You get this. I got this from my wife, but I have another bottle that's twice the size of this, and it only cost $4. Whereas this one, this is MIG ammo, odorless thinner.
Yep.
$11.
Jeez.
$11.
Right.
I swear that most of these manufacturers go to the people who make the product and buy it by the 40-gallon drum and bottle it themselves and sell it for whatever the hell they want. Whereas you get it from Home Depot, you can get, small bottles, you can get big bottles, whatever. If you
Right.
order IPA, I get the 99% from Costco. I get 4 500 ml bottles for $12,
Right.
but you can buy it by the gallon for $12 from Amazon.
Yeah, I don't think we can get 99% in the state. I think I've got
So
90.
so
I've
you
got
get
91.
90 or 91. What's the
Yeah,
difference?
90 or
The only
9%.
the only thing is
Well,
9 or 8% is water. And if you
Right.
get to 70%, 30% is water. So it's going to take longer to dry.
Right.
Yeah. So with that said, with the streaking grime, so like I think I have some of the MIG stuff as well. Do you use the AK stuff? Is that kind of interchangeable? Do you feel
They're
one
they're
versus the
both the
other?
same. They're
They're
both
both
the
the
same.
same.
If you want the story about MIG and AK, I can tell you the story. AK Interactive used to be owned by Mig Jimenez. And then he had a falling out with his wife and they got a divorce and she got the company. He then started to make the new product under Mig Ammo. And that's where he's at now. And his wife, when with Mig Ammo, she died of a brain tumor.
Yeah. Right.
And that was too bad because she was a real good ambassador for the hobby.
She was indeed. But yeah, so ultimately the AK stuff quality
They're the same.
wise, they're the
Same.
same. Yeah.
And you get ammo paints and Vallejo paints. If you look at the bottle, they're all bottled in the same place.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So
I think with the mineral based products, it's the same as well. It's just a slightly different color, but the formulation is basically the same. Now, Vallejo paints, they have Vallejo Air,
yep.
which they're good. They were supposed to be meant to use through an airbrush. I won't spray them through an airbrush, not at the
No.
consistency they're at. They're too thick and
Okay.
they'll gum up your brush. So the first caveat, the first thing that I'll give you when using these paints that you don't know about or you're not familiar with, only use the thinner recommended for that paint.
When you're starting out.
Yep.
Yep.
Once you start experimenting with thinners to thin it out, and you want a consistency of skim milk.
Right.
And don't worry if you have to put 2 or 3 coats on to get an even coverage.
Right.
It's better to do that than to put too much on and then hide all the detail.
Yep. Right.
So these paints, they're good paints. They're a high pigment, a good quality pigment in them, and they have what's it? Panzer Aces is one, Vallejo Air is another, and Model Colors is the other. Then AK now has come out with the next generation or generation 3, which are excellent paints. You haven't seen my girl on the bike.
No. So
That's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's the one, Mike, that I think I used the nozzle or the cap off the kids.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah.
So the one. So while we're searching for that picture, we're kind of just brushing up against, and not to use brush as the term here, but airbrush, right? So a lot of these effects, a lot of these things that we've talked about tonight are, all done with an airbrush, or
Mm,
to that degree. Do you have a favorite that you like to use, a single action or a double action, or dual action, I should say, certain brand?
I'll give you this. I have a Badger 350, which is a
Yep.
single action
Yep.
suction feed.
Yep.
It's 35 years old.
Yep.
It's still going strong.
There you go.
I have a Badger 200, which is also suction feed, single action. That's also going strong.
Mm-hmm.
I have, uh, well, I have an Iwata Revolution, I believe it is. Yeah, I can't. It's not on the box. I believe it's a Revolution, but it's a gravity feed, and it's dual action.
Right.
I love the dual action, but don't get me wrong, the single action is good too.
Yeah.
And the vacuum feed. The one thing I will tell you guys, and this is only because of working in the trade, with an air compressor, they give you the air compressor with a moisture trap on the end and
Mm-hmm.
a regulator, which is
Yep.
that's great. But you have to think about this. The air comes in, goes through the cylinder, and it's compressed. When it's compressed, it heats up. When air is heated, it absorbs more moisture,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't come out until it gets somewhere where it's cool.
Exactly.
Having the moisture trap right on the end of the head is not taking the moisture out. You might
Nope.
get some out, but you'll find if it's humid outside, or I never spray when it's raining. If it's humid outside, you'll get water condensing in your air line to your brush. And if it comes up to your brush, you're done for, because it'll ruin your paint job. So what I have that I put on the end of my brush is one of these things. It's another moisture trap,
It's another trap.
and it fits right on the bottom of the brush, between the brush and the hose.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think I have my moisture trap. So I have basically like a pancake compressor. I don't like those little
Yeah.
ones because I like to use it for something else other than that. And I have essentially my moisture trap is 3-4 feet away from my compressor.
Well, with the pancake, you're putting it into a cylinder.
Yeah.
The moisture's coming out. It's condensing there because the tank is cooler than the air coming out of the cylinder. So there it is on the bottom of my brush.
Oh, look at that.
And I have quick releases.
Yeah, a little quick release.
Oh yeah.
So David Winter says he has the same thing, plus it makes a great handle when spraying.
It does.
So there you go. It's a bit of ergonomics there too with your airbrush.
Something to hang on to. But I have it. All my brushes are set up like this. I have Badger Renegade, and I have Badger Sotar 2020. Except mine, when I got it, I went whole hog, and I got the anniversary one. It's gold. I thought I want a 2020, but how badly do I want it? Do I want it this bad? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So
I think
which one is it?
I have two airbrushes myself. I have a Binks Ren A. That's as old as I am. Look at that.
And it's number. Where's the number? Number 100 of 200.
Yep. Wow. And then I have the Iwata Eclipse.
Yep. It's a good brush.
I like them both. They both serve their purpose. One's a single action suction feed. That's the Binks.
Mhm.
And that thing, I can pretty much spray. I can spray craft store acrylic through it. It's that robust. So
Oh, you're one of those guys. Ugh.
I'm one of those guys that'll do that.
Oh, no.
It serves its purpose,
No.
though.
So you guys have, is it Harbor Freight?
We do, yeah.
Okay, we have Princess Auto. So this compressor and this airbrush came together.
Sure.
This is a suction feed,
Hmm.
dual action.
Cool.
So this is the one now that I use for my the dull coat.
The dull coat. Yeah.
But like you, I had a pancake compressor,
Yep.
but it was meant for pneumatic tools.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Except I had it right beside me when I was spraying, and every time the bloody thing would come on, it would scare the shit out of you.
It vibrates too. You have to keep it away
Well,
from your working surface sometimes.
well, there is that. Mine's a Porter cable.
Yeah.
So then the other thing I did last year, Badger had a sale on, and that's how I got the Sotar. They had
Yeah.
a sale on it. Everything was because it was 25, 50 years of service. Everything in their line was 50% off.
Oh wow.
So I bought their big compressor,
Yeah.
super
Nice.
thing. It's got a 1-gallon tank on it, but that's okay. I don't mind that.
So, Mike, did we get through all your line of questioning for Ralph this evening?
Oh, I'd say.
You'd say.
I'd say. I mean, yes.
We have the last segment of the show to get through, Ralph, but I do want, this is your time to shine. So if you have any other pearls of wisdom that you want to leave with us, otherwise we could have you back on again as and we've done the 101 class possibly, and if you ever feel like coming back, we could do. Go ahead. Yeah.
The taco sauce.
The taco sauce.
Oh,
that's right.
yeah.
Yes.
Taco
The taco sauce.
You guys talk about the taco sauce. I don't know
do.
why everybody goes out and buys half dozen different bottles. There's only two that are worthwhile getting, and that's the black and the dark brown. And depending on what type of grime you want, the brown is usually the one that you use more of.
Mhm.
The black is when you have let's say an alcove that you can actually see the oil coming out the seams of the door, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And dripping down onto the walkway. I know a lot of guys are using this to do their louvers and grills and so on. That it works, but like I say, I use the 502 paints, the oil paints, which is just as good. The nice part about using this, and the best part is, I don't know how you guys use it. I'll tell you how I use it, then you can tell me if you do the same. If I'm going to use this, and I don't always use it, anything that's solvent based, which this is, I have a semi-gloss acrylic finish that I'm working on, or even gloss. And the reason for that is if I want this to travel down the panel lines of the doors or things like that, if it's dull coat, what's going to happen is, just like when you have an oil spill in your garage, it drops on the cement, and after a couple of days, it starts to spread out.
Yep.
It didn't matter if that floor was sloped or whatever, it's going to spread out. The same thing happens on dull coat because of the fact that it's matte and it has all these little grooves for it to float into.
Capillary type action.
Yes. So when you put it on the semi-gloss or the gloss, you let gravity do the work for you. At the top corner of the door, you just touch the top corner of the door and it'll go along the top itself, and it'll start to flow down. If there's a hinge in the way, then you give it another shot where the hinge is,
Yeah,
and
right.
let it go a little further. And then, because we're not all that careful, even though you try to be, you get a blob somewhere.
Yep.
If it's on dull coat or just on factory paint, a lot of times it'll soak right into the factory paint and there's no cleaning it up. But if it's on semi-gloss or gloss paint, you can come back with a moist, not wet, a moist brush and just finely take away that blob.
Kind of work with it a little bit to reduce the spillage.
Yes.
That's
So
good advice.
those are my words of wisdom on that. So now, is that the way you guys use it, or what? Or do
I
you
haven't
just
really
throw it
started
on?
to play with it very much lately at all. I have the dark brown, and I have brown. Now I'm gonna go buy black. So that's another $8.
Like no, hang on a second.
So
I'm telling you what works for me. You can make it
I'll
yourself.
make myself. I
so,
learned that today.
So I have some. I don't use it. I use oil-based paints for my pin washes, and I just as needed. I don't, for whatever reason, I haven't picked up on. I've experimented with it on different surfaces, and I can't get it to work like everyone else seems to. It's just, for me, it's not a technique that I've fallen in love with yet.
It's like one of those things where you try this, and it's alcohol or whatever. Ooh, that tastes terrible. Oh, it's all right. It'll grow on you. Yeah.
After the fifth one.
Try it. You'll like it.
Yeah. As soon as your tongue numbs and you can't feel the inside of your mouth anymore, everything.
Yeah, right.
tastes
Now
good.
it's
don't drink the taco sauce. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
don't.
Well.
No, just don't do it.
No.
Don't do it. No.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. So, I'll give the last call here for questions for Ralph. But what we'll do tonight here is we'll go through. Ralph, if you so choose to join us here, we always have the old "What's on your workbench" bit here to get the. Go ahead.
I sent a picture in.
Yeah,
it's in the chat.
So we'll bring those up from our Facebook feed tonight, and we'll get those posted out there, and
this
we'll
is
make
always
our
fun.
comments. It's the fun part of the show.
It's
so
the
Ralph,
fun part of the show.
Feel free to jump in, comment, and just interact with the chat, the folks out in the chat. So we'll take a quick commercial break here, and we'll cue up the Greasy Meat Hands band, and we'll be back in just a second. All right, so it's time for What's on Your Workbench, and we have quite a few entries this evening, so we're going to have to go through the speed version. So out on the old Second Section Podcast Facebook page, we have the call to arms here for the What's on Your Workbench. And you can also tag your post by hashtag What's on Your Workbench, and we'll get that out there. So looks like I better hit the refresh button here on this, and we'll get everyone's comments back in. We got 35 to go through this evening. Let's see here. Wango Tango, and we'll view all the previous comments here. So, speaking of taco sauce, Michael Shanky's been practicing with his taco sauce. Still hasn't worked up the courage to start on his WSOR locomotives yet. So he's got an old locomotive that he's practicing his weathering techniques on. You can see here, it looks like in the air filter louvers here on the top, or the fans here. Looks like he's starting to add that in there, the black taco sauce. So you can see what Michael's got going on here.
That looks like an old Athearn shell, doesn't it, Ralph?
It does.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
like an F9 or
like
SD9.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be good. Those are good shells to practice on.
Yep.
He's got the taco sauce in the background there. So nice work, Michael. Keep practicing.
But he's
It's
got
looking
a
good.
clean workbench.
Look at that workbench is so clean.
Jeez,
It's
clean
nice.
Yeah,
workbench
right?
is a
Nice.
sign of a sick mind.
Right?
All right. That is true. That is true. So we have Paul Scott August here, and he's got the Altoona Model Works brick smokestack is next up. 2 mini print orders to finish up painting, and then ties to build gondola loads. So he's look at how organized he is. I like the mini prints though. So I think Bernard would appreciate that as well. Hashtag not sponsored on the mini prints in the upper left. And then Paul's got a couple of other items here. So here he's updated this building with some 3D printed cement sacks that are on order. It's looking pretty good. I see Paul has a nice, looks like, is this a photo backdrop?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he finished the Mondovi Canning Company. I really like
See,
this
there's
one.
a good combination. You photo backdrop the trees
Yep.
and paint the sky.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can do clouds, whatever.
Yep. I really like the way that this scene is starting to shape up.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice. Well done, Paul.
It's a really cool looking structure.
It is, yeah. So let's see here. Jake Etling. He is working on the scratch build of his mill for the Valley Motors. This has progressed quite a bit this week.
Mm-hmm.
So hashtag not sponsored. The Rick's Doors and Windows, Walther's Roof Detail. That's pretty, you can see that there. That's pretty large building to just go off and scratch build. Well done, Jake. I like that. Another picture here. Looks like he's got some cars set in there. Some auto parts box cars, looks like, set in. Yeah, keep us posted. This is turning out really good. This scene is. Let's see here. Chris, I'm going to say Tiani. And not working on the workbench, but on the lift out section of his layout. And he's also continuing the track work, ballast, and scenery base. Hope to get started with the East Junction Yard Office from JL Innovative Designs. Hashtag not sponsored. It will be sitting on the small hill over the now abandoned junction with the old branch line. So this is quite the scene he has set up here. But I think he gets some style points here for leaving all of the materials that he's using to do the scenery on the layout yet. I think that's a common practice.
It's called a workbench.
That your layout can double as a workbench. Absolutely right. And you can see here
until there's no room left.
That's right. Then you have to go vertical. And you can see the JL Innovative Design here, this little cute East Junction Yard Office here. That looks like a fun kit to build. Nice. Thanks, Chris, for sharing.
Looks like you could do almost anything you wanted to with that kit, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It could be almost anything.
So Chris Haddo says, "Full size me has me working on my rest lately. Coffee is what's on his workbench. Detroit Lions is what's on his cup. I think something's wrong here."
Well, you know
what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, what's wrong? It should. Very good, Chris.
Should be Toronto Argos.
What?
There you go. There you go.
John Whithouse calling in tonight. He says, more Alcos as always. I'm currently working on a pair of homebrewed RS11 chop nose rebuilds for the Cara Terminal Railway. I was going for we built this in our own shop look. So yeah, this is, John always has interesting locomotive builds going on. I do like the chop nose RS11s. Wonder, are those the Atlas? Looks like.
Oh, I would bet they are.
Yeah. He's got nice use of the workbench here, multiple projects in the background. In the lower left-hand corner, though, he does have about 5-6 square inches there. I think we could have squeezed another project in there. But
Yeah.
I do like that
And
you're
we know he's
cruising
got
right
plenty
along.
of them.
Yeah, right. I do like that he's cruising right along from build to build, keeping the modeling chops fresh. Nice job, John. Joe DeLuso, nice. Mine came in Saturday's mail, always talking about something to do with, looks like
Something.
John's Alco there. Yep. Patrick Miller, I bought 13 Proto GP9s from a fellow division member who's now downsizing to a retirement community. On my workbench is a Norfolk and Western Jeep, getting some extra details that match the prototype. I like the use of the prototype picture to guide your modeling. I like that a lot. You can see, he's got a little fast tracks action here. A little, it's like a frog jig there for filing down frogs or points. So
I'd like to know what's in those old roundhouse boxes in the background there. That's kind of neat.
he keeps his secrets in there.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
No. Workbench full. Hashtag workbench full. Well done, Patrick. And yeah, if you so choose, let us know what's in those old roundhouse, those yellow roundhouse boxes back there. Peter Borchards. Here we go. Showcase miniatures and scale signal bridge.
Wow.
I would show my whole workbench, but I'm at the office, and then this is all I have is a screenshot from the video that he's shooting. I'll post another photo of the workbench when I get time. A warning, though, you can't see much of the workbench. I like the fact that you can't. You're warning us right off the bat. But again, the panel here will be the judge. So we'll let you know, Peter. And just so you guys know, Peter's got a fantastic YouTube channel out there about his N scale BNSF layout. So make sure you check him out as well.
Hey, just so you know, I just got a message from Ralph. His computer just died.
Unfortunate. So
Very, very unfortunate.
Here, it's top rate production value here on second section as always. Brian Vec painted up the Plain Jane reefer on some of the P&O 40-foot containers, did some weathering, followed a prototype photo. Very nice, Brian. Let's see here. Tom Jacobs. This is neat. Starting on modeling a soybean field by spraying brown pipe cleaners with hairspray and spray adhesive, or hairspray / spray adhesive, then coating them with Scenic Express flock turf. The upper one, or fine leaf flake, and the lower, oh man, this is always a challenge for me to read quickly, or the fine leaf one. This was a test to compare the material, leaning towards the fine leaf flake because better texture and also more of the brown branch structure can show through. I'm going to have to agree with you there, Tom. I think you'd want to go with the fine leaf flake on the lower one there.
I think that's a great idea. You know,
that is a really
I never would have
good
thought
idea.
of using a pipe cleaner for a soybean field.
Yeah, and then you can see the application here that he'll be gluing in.
Well, that looks
Pretty
good.
cool, Tom. Pretty cool.
I'll take 45 of them.
Gary Rumming, when you build your layout in modules, you can pull individual modules out to work on, finishing off some of the details with my scratch building. Like that. This is cool. And he's employed Legos here.
Yeah, Legos, you know, for those that don't really know, you could use Legos and create like squaring blocks for doing structures and stuff like that. It's because they're perfectly square.
Amazing.
You know, so it's there. You know, use your kids' Legos if you got them,
or your own Legos. I mean,
or your
I
own.
still play with Legos. That's
Yep.
perfectly acceptable. Sal Natale, switching out decoders from an old, about 2010 install to a Digitrax with sound. Big thanks to the section crew for helping out what was in the engines, or to help figure out what was in the engines. A pair of Athearn Blue Box UP SD 40-2. So thank you, section crew, for helping out Sal with his decoder woes. Truly appreciate you guys chiming in. That's what it's all about here.
You bet.
Well done. Thanks, section crew,
He's
and
trying-
thanks, Sal. Is he trying to get back
He's
in?
trying to get back.
Should I let him back in?
Sure. Why not?
He's not back in.
Oh, no.
No, he's not back yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Whew. Let's see here. Moving.
It looks like an awful lot to unpack in that next one.
What's that? Graham Stockfield?
Yeah. There looks like that's starting to look a little more like
this is high in the running for Workbench of the Week. Graham Stockfield still working on those lumber loads. They take a long time and use a lot of scale lumber. So I love what's going on here with his Workbench. We're starting to maximize the vertical here. We have the second section podcast up on screen, in the forefront, and then he has his lumber load off to the right here, and then here's a picture of the model, and that's just a really cool lumber load
really good
that he's putting together. So hats off to you, Graham. This is really turning into an excellent model, and
Ralph talked about doing that, right?
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
Yeah, Ralph talked about doing that, making sure, like, when you're doing your weathering, using photos and stuff, and your modeling can be like you're doing loads like that. That's a great idea. Have the photo right there by you.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan Folk, Workbench is far too clean, but I needed the space to work on the storage building for one of my grain elevators. So, clean Workbench, yes. Tamiya taco sauce in the background there. I can see that on the splash guard of the countertop. And then he's got the podcast up on the laptop. That's going to get him some points. I think that looks pretty good, Ryan. I like what you're doing with the building.
The building, it almost looks like he's trying to build like a fertilizer, like a bag plant or something like that. Like,
well, sometimes farmers they'll just hook a pipe up to the roof of the machine shed here, and then they'll dump the grain right on the floor of the shed.
Oh, okay.
And then what they'll do is they'll come back in with like a feed mixer or something like that, and pull the corn or soybeans out of there and mix up the feed to feed the cows. So
could you take that structure and segment it and then create your own blend a feed blend if you wanted to?
Yeah, so you could partition it off. We built these big, when I worked on the farm, we built these big, like, they almost look like really tall K rails, like you see on the side of a freeway, those cement things, but we made them out of wood. And then we would, dump the grain in, and it would funnel into a certain part of the shed, and then we'd have another pipe, into the roof. And yeah, it was a whole process. But yeah, you could segment out the shed to essentially, mix up grain on your own, so you didn't have to buy it from the feed mill. So nice job, Brian. Dennis Carroll, here we go. Just so happens I'm attempting to weather a 4884. Ooh, fun for fun and the learning experience. A good example of doing it all at once. So this is very, very nice. An old big boy, right? 4884. He's got all the tools of the trade out on the workbench there, and the MIG and AK washes in the background. That's pretty cool. Dennis has got a fairly neat workbench though. But yeah, looks good. Good luck with the weathering endeavor there. Hope you learned a couple things tonight. Nathan Crabb, not much to report from the workbench itself, but I have been experimenting with a few different types of grass tufts in the yard. There you go, in between the rails there. That's in between the tracks. That's good. I like to see the Wisconsin Central there, Nathan. That's a good look.
Check out Boomer's or Luke Cowan's method of making your own grass tufts.
Yep.
It works really, really good.
Yeah. Here we go. This one, Robert J. Thomas. We got all sorts of good stuff going on here. Ready for the show tonight? I have the early 1900s car kits from the Bitter Creek in final assembly. And the next few weeks' main project of Wilson's mustard structure kit from Mine Mount Models, getting some primer and wall bracing. Hashtag not sponsored. This is a beauty here. This is a cornucopia of model railroad folks online. We have, look at this.
He's always organized, though.
Yeah. The Ron's Trains and Things, another good YouTube channel out there.
Yeah.
Coffee mug. He's got the taco sauce in the background.
The show on.
He's got the show on here with Second Section. He's got our friend Ron Kleiss with Mine Mount Models. His kit out in the foreground. Again, hashtag not sponsored. Oh, look at this.
What?
Look at up in the far right-hand corner here. First of all, this old green car. That's pretty cool. But he's got the GAC 500 Golden.
Oh, wow.
So that's a Boomer kit there for, I think, water, right? Interesting. Have to let us know, Robert, what you're using that for. Nice Workbench. Still think Graham gets the nod, though. Let's see. Jeff Cracker here. First week back to Workbench. First chance to listen live. Building a set of 3D printed trucks for my second 3D printed ON3 Shea. The trucks have ball bearings on all the shafts included in the crankshaft journals. Oh boy. So this is a labor of love right here, building this Shea out. I can't wait to see this done and working. Jeff, if you get a video of this up and running, please post it to the Facebook page. I think that'd be super cool to see.
I love Shays.
They are so cool.
They're so cool. They're noisy.
They are. John Dick starting to decal my lines west, Milwaukee Road 55-ton hoppers. There we go. Good start. 3D printed model there from Lines West. I like Milwaukee Road.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's okay. Ryan Osmalski upgraded the internal or the inertial filter and turbo stack with Canon parts and on a Kato GP35 to make it more correct for a phase 2. Now I just have to get the motivation to clean out the molded fans for Plano fans. This will be painted for my freelance Joliet belt line. You'll have to cue us in, Ryan, on how you clean out those molded fans. I've struggled with that, and I've always just made a disaster of it. So if you have a good method, let us know.
I've used the technique of using the multiple size drill bits before.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
And then just get close and sand it. But
so this one wasn't necessarily what's on your workbench, but Clem Harris says, "Am I taco saucing correctly?" It's pretty good center beam, opera window center beam there, Clem. Tobacco Valley Lumber Company. Looks really nice.
That looks good.
That looks very good. Let's see here. A couple other folks posted for what's on the workbench. Let's see if I can bring it up. It's fun just watching me, browse around the internet too. That's always always a good time.
It is.
John Dick, just a couple of cool posts from around the layout. I think that's awesome, John. I like this scene here with the old, looks like Milwaukee Road switcher. It's pretty cool. But Ralph said that he posted one that we wanted to show. So
He said it was in the chat.
said it was in the chat. I don't know where that would be. We did have a lot of good entries this week. Oh, here's one from Brian Doherty. He's still working on the Modeling with the Masters bunkhouse. So he's still cruising right along here. Looks like the build's progressing, Brian. It's looking pretty good. Ralph says it's in Messenger.
Yeah, I've got it. Oh, yeah.
Do you want to share? Oh, and then Neil Erickson. We had to show this one too. So he's doing coupler lift bars and rings. Don't effing sneeze. Good advice, Neil, because you'll get snot all over that and lose it forever.
And I've got Ralph's.
And you've got Ralph. So I'm going to stop sharing here. We'll pass the microphone over to, and Ralph's back. Welcome back, Ralph.
Ralph's back.
Hey. Just in time.
Just in time to close up shop.
Here's Ralph's contribution to what's on your workbench. And, you know, I hate to say it, Ralph. I'm going to have to say this right to you. You know, having your computer screen flipped up like that so you can't really see behind it, I would say this is very, very well done. I like this.
Mike.
Yes.
My workbench is on top of the computer right now.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So he's got the taco sauce. See that? And then the what is it? The oil paints there, right?
The oil paints, yep.
Yeah, Abtalung 502s.
Yep.
Abtalung 502s.
Wow.
Very good.
I thought the workbench was behind that, Ralph.
Well, that's what it used to be.
Yeah.
Oh.
Until my desktop computer died, then I had to use the laptop. So
gotcha.
the laptop is actually sitting on top of where the keyboard tray is.
Oh. Still pretty good. That's right up there.
I thought I sent you the picture of the N scale car that I'm doing now. I'm just having fun. N scale auto rack.
Oh,
I don't think we've seen that.
The Homer Simpson.
The Homer Simpson. That's cool.
I've done Batman and the Joker as well.
Oh wow.
If I can find it, Ralph, I've got one for you to do.
So
you can do with it for anybody that would want it. How about the grape ape?
The what?
The grape ape. Do you remember Hanna-Barbera and the grape ape?
No, I don't.
Oh. Andy, do you remember the grape ape?
No, I don't. The only Hanna-Barbera cartoon I remember is Scooby-Doo. So excellent.
Usual.
Excellent. What's on your workbench tonight, section crew? Well done. I just, I'm always impressed, amazed by the entries that we get every week. I think Graham Stockfield, you're gonna take home the taco this week as workbench of the week. So I'm writing these down, the workbench of the week winners. So we'll talk more about that in later podcasts coming down the road here. But I just want to, before we close up shop tonight, I want to give the section crew that stayed with us this evening. We got 32 coming in, almost clocking into 3 hours here time. If you have any last minute questions for Ralph, the Mudfather, please get those into the chat and we'll get those fired off. But Mike, as we always do here before we tie down tonight, do you have any final thoughts or questions or alibis here for Ralph?
No, I just want to extend sincere thank you, Ralph, for everything you explained tonight. There is a lot to unpack in this. This is going to be one of those podcasts that's going to be a multiple watch type of thing, because you're going to have to go through it a couple times to make sure that you pick up on every.
Yeah,
you get it all. This is very informative, and just thank you very much for coming on the show. Really means a lot.
You're welcome. I had fun doing it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the end if we didn't have a question about how do you finish your model. Do you use a final clear coat on your model?
I always finish with dull coat.
Always finish with dull coat.
Yep.
Always finish.
Unless that's a weathered model.
Yeah.
Unless it's a new paint job, then maybe a semi-gloss, but
Semi-gloss.
it's not a gloss.
Yeah, not a full-blown gloss. Good question, David.
And Mike, this is for you.
Oh boy.
That's the bottle top.
Oh, we don't see it yet.
No? Okay, hang on. Let me do it again.
It's production value.
Yep. I'm like excited to see this.
the bottle top.
Wait till you see it. It's just yeah, there you go. That's off the top of an applesauce container.
The front of the cycle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Now I'll go backwards in the pictures. This is 1/20th scale.
Yeah.
The figure is a 3D printed resin, and the whole bike and everything is supported off her right leg. So that top goes back to about there. And it's these plastic pouches of applesauce and yogurt and so on that have the big screw cap on them.
Yeah. It's perfect for that.
So again, this was a breakaway from doing the model
railroading.
There you can see the difference. That was a red cap.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome. So before we tie down, Ralph, any final words before we close up shop tonight?
Well, I'm gonna leave you with a cliffhanger.
Oh no.
a new technique that I've developed. I mean, first off, always use a prototype photograph.
Yep.
Second, always use the thinner that's designed for the paint you're using or the product you're using. Once you learn it and figure out, experiment with other thinners and so on.
Yep.
Don't do it in your airbrush. I did that with one paint and I forget the name of the paint. And I do a lot of mixing in the cup of my airbrush.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to put the paint in, put the thinner in, used my little brush to stir it up. And by the time I went to spray it, I could turn it upside down and nothing came out.
It wasn't true color, was it?
It might have been. It turned to jello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So be really careful with the paints. True color is, if that's the one I'm thinking of, it's actually printer's ink, and you thin that with acetone.
It's acetone based, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
The other little thing that I've been experimenting with is, and you saw it on the barn find, is the paint chipping on that door.
Yep.
That's done with wax paper, Vaseline, and Vallejo paints.
That's it. That's it.
I'm done.
That's for the
done.
next show. We'll have
I'll explain it to you next time.
I officially quit.
Ralph, it's truly been a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. And I know that. I know that.
David Winter.
Yeah, David Winter.
What?
So I think you've got the fish on the line here, Ralph, and
There's my Vaseline.
yeah, and if
Oh,
you
jeez.
and if you're willing, we'd certainly love to have you back on for a round 2 on this. And
Sure, I don't
you
mind.
know, this
I
has
don't
been
mind at all.
this has been a fantastic show. I hope the section crew online tonight got as much out of it as I did. I know that I am, I always love talking with Ralph and soaking up the information that he has. So again, thank you so much, Ralph. This has really been fun. Mike, anything else?
No, my mind is shot.
Yeah, I think I need to go lay down for a
I'm
little
done.
while. I think we need to go lay down for a little while.
Yeah.
So, all right, section crew, we're going to tie up for tonight. I want to thank everyone in the chat for hanging out with us all the way up to the bitter end here. Almost 3 hours. We had 32 up to the end. Outstanding. And we'll see you guys all in a couple of weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night. My pleasure to be here.